I'm 82 years old, and I wake up most mornings with a feeling I don't like to name. It isn't pain, it isn't fear. It's something quieter than that. A kind of hollowness that sits in my chest before my feet even touch the floor. I built the life I said I wanted. That's the strange part. The house is paid off. The savings account is comfortable. My name sits on plaques in places that still send me holiday cards. On paper, it looks like a well-lived life. A disciplined one. A successful one. So why do I feel like I missed something essential? At 82, you don't have the luxury of pretending you'll figure it out later. Later is mostly behind me now. I can feel that in my bones when I climb the stairs. I can hear it in the quiet of this house that used to feel like proof of something. I thought if I worked hard enough, achieved enough, proved myself enough, the emptiness would never find me. I thought I could outpace it. I was wrong. When I was 24, I made a decision that felt brave at the time. I chose ambition over everything else. Not because I didn't love people. I did. I just believed love would wait for me. I believed life would wait for me. I had a man who wanted to marry me, Daniel. He wasn't dramatic about it. He just showed up. Consistently. With groceries when I was studying late, with coffee when I was tired, with plans for a small house and 2 children and Sunday dinners. I told him I wasn't ready. I wasn't cruel about it. I explained myself. I said I needed to build something first. I said I didn't want to depend on anyone. I said I would regret giving up my career more than I would regret postponing marriage. He listened. He nodded. He said he understood. He married someone else 2 years later. At the time, I told myself that was fine. I had been promoted. I was traveling. I had my own apartment in a city that made me feel important. I remember standing in that apartment one night, looking out at the lights, thinking, this is what independence feels like. It felt sharp, clean, efficient. It didn't feel lonely yet. My 30s passed in conference rooms and airports. I learned how to speak confidently in rooms where no one expected me to. I learned how to take up space without apologizing. I built a reputation for being reliable, decisive, tireless. I was proud of that. There were relationships, of course, dinners, weekends away, men who admired my drive in the beginning and resented it by the end. I always chose work when it came down to it, not out of malice, out of habit. I told myself, just a few more years, just until this next promotion, just until I'm secure. Secure never felt secure enough. My parents grew older during those years. I noticed it the way you notice a crack in a wall that wasn't there before. Subtle, easy to ignore. My mother would say, "We don't see you much anymore." And I'd laugh and say, "I'm building something." She would smile, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. I missed small things. Birthdays I sent gifts for, but didn't attend. A Thanksgiving where I called in from a hotel room because a deal was closing. I told myself they understood. They had raised me to be strong, to make something of myself. When my father had his first stroke, I was in another state giving a presentation. I remember silencing my phone because I didn't want to be distracted. I told myself I'd call back later. Later turned into a hospital room where he was smaller than I remembered. His speech was slurred. His hand felt fragile in mine. He recovered somewhat. We were lucky, they said. I promised I would visit more. I didn't. Not really. There was always something urgent, something that needed my attention. I was good at being needed by the world. It made me feel solid. My 40s arrived without ceremony. I had the corner office by then. The salary I used to write in notebooks as a fantasy. The respect. I also had a house I rarely sat in long enough to enjoy. I hired people to maintain it, to clean it, to fix it. I outsourced the parts of life that felt domestic because I didn't have the energy. Friends started inviting me less. Not out of spite, just practicality. I was always busy, always traveling, always saying, "Let's do something next month." Next month became next year. I remember one evening in particular. I was 46. I had just closed the biggest deal of my career. Everyone was congratulating me. There was champagne in plastic cups. Applause. I drove home alone afterward. The house was dark. The kitchen was spotless. The refrigerator hummed. I stood there in my suit, holding the award they'd given me, and I didn't know who to call. That was the first time the emptiness introduced itself. It wasn't loud, it was more like a draft under a door. I ignored it. In my 50s, my mother died quietly in her sleep. It sounds peaceful when you say it that way. Quietly, in her sleep. But there's nothing quiet about clearing out someone's closet, about finding recipes in her handwriting, about realizing there are stories you never asked her to tell. At the funeral, people spoke about family, about how much she loved having everyone together. I stood there and realized I had been a guest in my own family for years. After that, I tried to adjust. I really did. I cut back on travel. I said yes to more invitations. I even dated a kind widower who wanted companionship more than excitement. He would sit across from me at dinner and ask about my day, not my achievements, my day. I didn't know how to answer that. We lasted 3 years. He wanted to move in together. I hesitated too long. He eventually chose someone who didn't need so much space. I told myself it was better this way, less complicated. But complication is another word for closeness. I see that now. When I retired at 68, they threw a large party. Speeches, a video montage, tears from people who said I had mentored them, changed their careers, shaped the company. I was touched. I truly was. Then Monday came. No meetings, no calls, no urgent emails, just silence. I thought retirement would feel like relief. Instead, it felt like being gently set aside, like a book placed back on the shelf after being read. That's when the emptiness stopped being a draft and became a room. I filled it with hobbies at first. Gardening, volunteering, book clubs. They were pleasant. They passed the time. But time passes whether you fill it or not. That's the part no one warns you about. Now, at 82, my world is small. My knees ache. My hearing isn't what it was. Some mornings I sit at the kitchen table with my tea and try to remember the exact sound of my father's laugh. It's fading. I have nieces and nephews who visit when they can. They are kind, busy, like I was. I don't hold it against them. I look around this house and see evidence of a life constructed carefully, thoughtfully, strategically. And yet, the rooms echo. The turning point, if I'm honest, came 2 winters ago. I slipped on the ice outside the mailbox. Nothing dramatic, just a fall. I lay there longer than I expected to, not because I was badly hurt, but because I realized no one would notice if I didn't get up right away. That's a sobering thought at 80. I managed to stand. I brushed myself off. I didn't tell anyone. But that afternoon, sitting with an ice pack on my hip, I understood something I had avoided for decades. I had built a life where I was indispensable professionally and optional personally. That wasn't anyone else's doing. It was mine. I kept believing there would be more time to mend things, more time to deepen relationships, more time to soften. Time is generous in youth. It feels endless. You spend it carelessly. You assume you can repay it later. You can't. Daniel died 5 years ago. I found out through a mutual friend. He had grandchildren, a noisy house, a wife who held his hand in the hospital. I don't begrudge him that. I'm glad he had it. But I do wonder, sometimes, what my life would have felt like if I had allowed myself to be chosen, to be intertwined, to risk slowing down. Success is a strange companion in old age. It doesn't sit beside you at night. It doesn't remember your stories. It doesn't reach for your hand when the lights are off. It just hangs on the wall. I don't hate my life. That's important to say. I am grateful for the doors I opened, for the young women who told me I made it easier for them, for the independence I earned. But gratitude and sorrow can live in the same body. The emptiness I feel now isn't punishment. It's the natural result of years spent postponing tenderness, of assuming connection would still be available when I finally turned toward it. Some things don't wait. If you're listening to me and you're younger, I won't tell you to abandon your dreams. I won't tell you to shrink yourself. The world doesn't need more small women. But I will say this gently. Don't confuse being needed with being loved. They are not the same thing. And don't assume the people who love you will always be there, unchanged, patient, waiting for your calendar to clear. One day you will wake up and realize the calendar is empty. I sit here now, In the quiet I once thought I wanted, and I try to make peace with it. I water my plants. I call my niece. I write letters I should have written years ago. Some of them come back with warm replies, some don't. That's all right. This is the shape of my life. Carefully built, slightly hollow. If this meant something to you, if you saw a little of yourself in it, then I'm glad I said it out loud. Not to change you, just to tell the truth while I still can. I am 82 years old. I built the life I wanted. And now, in the quiet of it, I finally understand what I left out.